Good morning, church. It is so great to be with you again today on a Tuesday. The topic I'm thinking about today is how do we hear the call that God makes in our lives? And this is a hard subject to understand because we don't normally get a text or an email or a phone call from God. That we hear God's nudgings in a variety of ways. And I had a couple of stories I'd like to share with you about this. The first one comes from the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 3. In the book of Samuel, there is a story of the 11-year-old Samuel who's serving in the high priest Eli's house. And it's nighttime, and Samuel has gone to sleep, as well as Eli. But Samuel hears a call, and he believes it's Eli calling him. It says, and he runs to Eli's bedside, and he says, "Here I am, for you called me." Well, Eli says he had not called Samuel and sends him back to bed. And 3 times this happens. Each time Samuel runs to Eli's side and says, "Here I am, Lord. What can I do for you?" And Eli says again, "Go and lie down. If he calls you again, you shall say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" See, Eli figured out that it wasn't voices in a dream that Samuel was hearing, but it was actually God calling Samuel to a new life. And so God later appointed Samuel to be the last of the judges of Israel. And then Samuel is also known as a prophet. Now, not all of us are called to be prophets or judges, right? And that's where it becomes confusing. We're not always sure what God's call on our life might be. Some of us are called into the ministry, but others are called to minister each and every day, no matter what their occupation is. And it's really not about that. It's not about what we do to earn a living. It's more about how we serve God. One of the best examples of this that I know comes from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, starting with verse 31. Jesus is speaking about the judgment, the day that all will be judged for what they've done in this life and how they've used the gifts that God's given them. So let me read to you starting Matthew 25, starting with verse 31. "When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep on his right hand and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right hand, 'Come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me.' Then the righteous will answer him, 'Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it that we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you?' And the king will answer them, 'Truly I tell you, just as you did it for one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me.'" And to me, that is the basis for the song I'm going to share to you, that God calls all of us in one way or another to do his will, to do the work of God in the community and around the world. And it's very challenging in a time like this when we're not able to get out and do the normal things that we do. So we have to be creative in the way that we serve others, maybe contacting people by phone or email or dropping off someone at someone's front porch. But there's a variety of ways that we can help other people. And in our time of a very divided society, and it's even becoming divided over this COVID issue, that we reach beyond that, and we see that we're truly called to love one another and to serve one another as we would serve the Lord. So I'm going to share with you a song, "Here I Am, Lord." I, the Lord of sea and sky, I have heard my people cry, all who dwell in dark and sin, my hand will save. I who made the stars of night, I will make the darkness bright. Who will bear my light to them? Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. I, the Lord of wind and flame, I will tend the poor and lame. I will set a feast for them. My hand will save. Finest bread I will provide, till their hearts be satisfied. I will give my life to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. We are called to hold the people of God in our heart, ever dear and close to us. Whether we're physically near them or not, we need to pray for them and reach out to others, help them to see of God's love in their lives too, that they know that they're cared for. Go and have a beautiful day, and peace be with you. Amen.